Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this webinar where we're going to give you a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look as to how the platform works for setting up your Trade Talk booth for this year's NAFB Trade Talk coming up on Thursday, the 19th of November. Alicia Grace is with Pathable. She's been with them for quite some time now. Pathable is the platform that we've chosen to use for our NAFB convention this year. And the main reason that we went with Pathable is because they are really able to handle a trade show like ours with multiple spokespeople and multiple people in a booth. So we appreciate them being a part of our process here this year. I'm going to go ahead and do the screen share now and turn over the hosting duties to Alicia Grace from Pathable, and we'll follow with the questions and answers after she's done with her presentation. So good morning, Alicia.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. And I do think there might be a few more people in the waiting room. Is it okay if I go ahead and let them in before we begin?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure. Let's get all of them in here. Okay, so while that is loading, so again, thank you all for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, oh, actually, I need to optimize that for sound. One moment. There we go. And then just to kick us off here. So this is going to be a demonstration of what you are going to experience during the trade show portion of this event. So on our agenda today, we're going to talk about the exhibitor experience, so how you guys are going to get into your sessions. Actually, we got a couple more people in the waiting room. 1 second. Okay, so we're going to talk about how you are going to get into your session and how you're going to manage your virtual trade show booth once you're in there. Additionally, we're going to talk about the broadcasters and how they're going to get to your virtual trade show booths and kind of a little bit of their experience to get to you. And then we'll open up at the end for questions. That way we can make sure that everybody's prepared for the day of. So, okay. So first we're going to talk about the exhibitor experience. So in this PowerPoint, which I do have as a file if anyone wishes to reference this at a later time just to kind of help keep you guys prepared, I do have a video walkthrough here, so I will be kind of talking over the video to explain what is going on so you can see again how we're going to get through this together. Just keep in mind that I did this on my Sandbox site, and the theme for this is a music festival, so it is going to be branded differently than your event site, and I'll kind of highlight those differences when we go through this. So. Oh, sorry. So in order to get to your virtual trade show booth session, you're going to go into the list of organizations. It may be listed as sponsors or exhibitors on your site, and you're going to click into your specific booth that you are a part of. So once you click, it's going to load to your booth. You'll notice that you're listed at the bottom as the staff for that, but you're going to want to click that Enter Virtual Trade Show Booth button. Here is where the session lives for your virtual trade show booth. This is where that meeting lives within Pathable. So although you do have access to this chat, polls, and people's files widget, we do suggest not putting anything there just because your attendees aren't going to be on this page very long. It's going to direct them straight into Zoom so that they can chat with you. So we do suggest all of that information stay on your actual booth page as opposed to this meeting page. So once you're ready, you can click the Join Live Meeting and it's going to pop you out into Zoom. Because again, you're going to need Zoom downloaded in order to get the full capabilities of running your virtual trade show booth. So just keep in mind that that should be downloaded, and if you don't have it already, it will prompt a download for you. So just as a little bit of an overview, when you're accessing your booth, you're going to navigate to the organization page, however that's listed on your site. Click the Enter Virtual Trade Show Booth button, and then start and prompt your Zoom room. So now we're going to talk about the different ways to manage your booth. So the first thing you're going to want to do is rename yourself, because you will enter in as host 500. So you can do that under the participants tab that you see here, and just make sure you rename yourself so that people know who they're speaking to. Something to keep in mind, that if there's multiple people that are going to be staff at your booth, the first person to enter will be the host, and then anybody else following will be the co-host. Those host abilities are easily transferable just in regular Zoom. So if by chance the first person to enter shouldn't be the overarching host of this session, you can easily get those roles transferred for you. And keep in mind that the big difference between the host and the co-host is that the host is the only one that has the abilities to manage the breakout rooms. Co-hosts do not have that feature. So you'll want to finish renaming yourself. In this video, I already have a participant here in the booth with me at this time. So at the bottom is where you'll see that breakout rooms feature. Here you can determine if you want to send people out into breakout rooms automatically, where it just automatically sends them out based on Zoom, or if you want to do it manually and assign a certain person to a certain room. You can always use the up and down arrows above to create more rooms for people to use. Okay. So in this option, I've created 2 different rooms, and I'm going to assign my people manually. You also have the ability to rename the rooms. This is a helpful trick to use if you're going to have certain staff members in certain rooms. So you can kind of, in this example, I named it staff 1 and staff 2, so that way I know which staff person is manning that breakout room. And then from there, you can then assign people into it. So I only have 1 person in my booth at this time. So that's why I have 1 person available to assign into a breakout room. And so she will then get a message to be able to join the breakout room. I will highlight what that messaging looks like a little bit later in this presentation. But as you can see now, it is just me in this room, and then my other attendee is in the breakout room. Ideally, there would be a staff member in there with her, but when I was doing this demonstration, it was just the 2 of us. And so you do have the ability to broadcast a message to everyone throughout the breakout rooms if you're familiar with Zoom already. So you can kind of send a universal message to everyone instead of just putting it in the chat. It does highlight at the top of their Zoom screen. So as you can see now, I have a new person that has just joined me within my virtual trade show booth. They do show at the top as unassigned because they have not been put into a breakout room yet. So it helps you organize your attendees a little bit better. And then so I'm going to go ahead and pick a booth for me to assign him to. So I'm going to go put him in that staff 2 room so he can speak with the staff member that's located in that room. So it's just me in the booth now, so I'm kind of here to greet people as they come in. We do recommend if you have multiple staff members that are going to be working this booth with you, we do suggest keeping at least 1 person in the main room to be there to greet guests, so that way they're kind of not coming into an empty room. And so you as the host with the management capabilities can switch back and forth between any of the breakout rooms. You can jump kind of in and out and jump all around. So if you choose to join, in this video, I have joined that first breakout room to go talk to that person to kind of have some one-on-one time with them. And I can easily jump into the additional breakout room as well with my other attendee. So in the corner is where you'll have the options to leave the breakout room. Just make sure that you're clicking leave breakout room and not leave meeting or end meeting for all, because that will push everybody out since you have the host powers at this point. And so now I'm going to go over to my other breakout room here. And so I've easily popped in to greet my other guest in this other breakout room. So just again, as a host, you do have the ability to create additional breakout rooms and hop in and out of all of them. You also have the ability to switch any other attendees or participants, any additional staff in between those meeting rooms. Whenever you're ready to kind of call everybody back into the main room, you can broadcast a message so that everybody knows that they're about to return back to that main room. And that action does occur by clicking the Close All Breakout Rooms feature. So everybody's breakout room is closed and they're forced to be back in the main room all over again. So that is the breakout room management feature of being able to manage your virtual booth. So again, as an overview, make sure that you rename yourself when you first get in there. The first person to enter is going to be the host and everyone else is a co-host. There can only be one overarching host for the room, so make sure you determine who's supposed to have those abilities when you're still getting yourself started. And then utilize those breakout rooms in order to kind of speak with people one-on-one. Also remember, you can broadcast messages to everyone throughout their breakout rooms, and we do suggest keeping someone in that main room so that way someone's there to greet guests. So we will next talk about the broadcaster's experience and how they will get to you. So this is showing how they will access their booth. It'll be slightly different from how you were going to get into it. So they're going to click into the agenda listing. In my sample here, it's called a lineup for my theme, but it'll be the agenda or schedule in yours. And then
you can have the recording and this one like a couple days before it starts.
I'm actually going to mute somebody really quick. Hold on. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so when they click into that agenda item that is marked as being a virtual trade show booth, they will get an entire listing of everybody that is enabled for that virtual trade show. So they can filter through and see who they would like to come visit. So in this example, I wanted to come visit that Target booth. So this is the first page that they will see. This is where all your booth will be configured with any additional information, and they will click that Enter Virtual Trade Show Booth button. Again, this page looks very similar to what you see as an exhibitor to get to your meeting. So yes, attendees do have access to this page, but with user behavior, they will not be on this page very long because they're eager to come into that Zoom room to speak with you. So you can put any chat messaging if you want to in here. We do just suggest most of that be in that booth page. So they'll click the join live meeting button so that they can join you, and it'll prompt them open to Zoom as well because they must have Zoom downloaded to come speak with you, and then they will appear in your booth. Couple of things, when you are using that breakout room feature, these are the two messages that both you and the attendees will see. Excuse me. So whenever you are entering a breakout room, you will see this message to let you know that you're joining one. And whenever you're going back to the main session, you will see this one here to let you know that you're returning. A couple of other Zoom features that you are able to use during your live trade show booth room is you can enable that waiting room feature. You can also record to the computer. For me, it's here for the cloud. We suggest you don't use that because it'll attach to this meeting that attendees can't have access to after the virtual trade show booth is over. So if you do want to record your interview or your virtual trade show booth, we suggest you record it to the computer and then upload it to your booth page for people to view at a later time. Again, that'll be available during the entire lifespan of the site. But you can use all of the traditional Zoom features that you would get in a regular Zoom meeting. So you can mute your sound, you can turn off your camera, you can record the session if you choose. You can also enable that waiting room as well. In terms of walkthrough content, that is all I have at this moment. So I wanted to open the floor for questions and kind of give the opportunity to talk through some of these what-if situations and customize this for you. So I'm actually going to allow everyone to unmute themselves. Oh, I saw some things about blurry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. My apologies. I didn't see in the chat that this was blurry here, so I'm actually going to see if I can pop out this video into a full screen so that way we can kind of not have that instance. I'm so sorry, guys. I didn't see that. My apologies. And actually, let me get these videos open for you.
Alicia, while you're doing that, I have a quick follow-up question. This is Tracy
Sure.
Willis. I may have missed your announcement because I joined a couple minutes into your presentation, but are you sending out all this material via email after the walkthrough here today so we can kind of go through it on our own as well?
Yes, I am going to send this over to Tom, and then you can reference him if you would like him to distribute to you, just because I don't have everybody's email address, but he will have that for you.
Thank you.
So again, I sincerely apologize for the blurriness of it. I'm going to go ahead and open these videos now and kind of talk through it one more time, just to make sure that everybody can see it clearly. So let me pause this, and I will share my screen. Okay. Oh, I need to share it for video. Hold on. There we go. Okay. And so if somebody wouldn't mind letting me know verbally, just because I want to make sure that I don't have the chat open so I can make sure I'm doing this, but can someone just let me know if the video is blurry while it's playing so I can make sure that we clean that up? Can everyone see this clearly? If anybody?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So yes. Okay. So sorry. This is how you as an exhibitor are going to navigate to your booth. So you'll click into the organizations list here and you'll scroll to the booth that you are staffing. And then for this one, I was staffing the Etsy booth. So I'll click into here. And then you'll click the Enter Virtual Trade Show Booth button. That gives you access to your Zoom meeting. So once you're here, again, you do have access to this area. We just suggest that you keep all communications on the booth page of this because people won't be on that actual meeting page for very long. And then this will prompt you into Zoom. Once you are in Zoom, let me get out of this one and open up that next one for you. So once you're in Zoom, these are the different capabilities you have. We do suggest that you first rename yourself so that people know who they're speaking to because you're going to first come in as either host 500 or co-host 500. Ooh. And then that breakout rooms feature is at the bottom. Again, that's just reserved for the host and host alone. Co-hosts do not have that ability.
Alicia,
Yes.
some chatter going on about the screen being still blurry and a question about clarifying that broadcasters may join a breakout room on their own or switch to another breakout room without a host assigning them.
Gotcha. Thank you for letting me know. Let me exit out of this and come back in. I do apologize for the disruptions in quality. I'm so sorry about that. Is the video still blurry at this moment?
It's good
It's looking
for
better for me.
Yeah, it got better.
Okay. In terms of the question about attendees being able to join their own breakout rooms, they cannot. The host has to put them in different breakout rooms. So only the host has that ability to manage where people are located within the room. Okay, I'm going to leave my mouse alone so we can at least keep this pretty crystal clear for you. But then you do have the ability to rename the breakout rooms. So I do suggest naming them based on the staff member that you do want to kind of man that room. It helps you a little bit with managing, but you're able to name them if you choose or leave them as is. And then you can go through and assign who will be in that booth. So I did assign the one person in my booth to that breakout room. Ideally, there'd be a staff member in there to greet them, but at this point, I had only had one person running this demo with me.
Just a quick question.
Yep.
These breakout rooms, do we create them only if there's somebody kind of waiting for us, or do we create them ahead of time in preparation for people coming in?
You can create them ahead of time as well. So you have access to your virtual trade show booth 20 minutes before the actual start of the exhibit hall time. So you can kind of take that time to prepare and make those booths for you. You don't have to have somebody in the room already to create those.
So could we create several breakout rooms for our company sources and then and leave them in there and then just move broadcasters in and out?
Yes, you can. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So you're able to move any attendees or panelists, people that are there with you throughout the breakout rooms at any time. So whatever management style works best for you. So are we not able to
beforehand or only after?
During the entire duration. The host has that ability from the entire start to finish of the meeting. So you can do it prior to, during the meeting, and then you wouldn't really need to after the conclusion of it, but that ability never goes away.
Only in the 20 minutes, or can we do it beforehand?
You can do it only in that 20 minutes that you have access to the room. That's the earliest that you can get into the Zoom room to do that. So
is that at 6:45 a.m. or?
I don't know off the top of my head what time this starts, but I think Tom can kind of better answer that question as to when this is scheduled, but 20 minutes before whenever that is scheduled to start. So if it is at 7 o'clock in the morning, you have the ability to get in there at 6:40 to start doing that and getting yourself set up.
Gotcha.
And then
Our
as we-
trade talk hours are from 7 in the morning till 1:30 in the afternoon. That is Central Time.
Gotcha. So yeah, you have from 6:40 then to get in there and be able to get your booth together.
And then as we move people into that room, our goal is to only move them one at a time. Do we keep the others in the waiting room with us? How do we notify them that we're moving them into the room to actually do the interview? Because we don't want multiple people in while there's an interview happening. Like I've got four spokespeople.
So you can enable that waiting room feature, so then they have a messaging, and I can actually show what that looks like that lets them know that they're in a waiting room and waiting to be admitted. You can also put any type of broadcasting message across all those rooms if you're kind of letting people know that interviews are about to begin or if they're about to conclude. And then you can also chat with them privately to let them know your interview is about to start, anything of that nature. But let me show you what that messaging looks like when they do enter a waiting room. So I did use Tom's meeting room as an example as this gets pulled up, but they get a notification saying that you are going to be notified to get in there soon. So you're kind of just there waiting. They are aware that they're in a waiting room at that point. And then let me kind of filter through some of these questions. So
So
are there
that will
any?
change for each meeting room? It won't say Tom Brands, it'll say who's ever in that room?
Yeah, it'll say the host is has you in a meeting room. Yes, correct. It's either going to say the host or the name of your organization. I apologize for not knowing at the top of my head, but it won't say Tom Brands because that was his meeting room that I was in. So it'll most likely say the organization name.
And do
So
we put
it will
that?
say the host, it won't necessarily say which meeting room they're waiting for?
Pardon me?
Will it say which meeting room they're waiting for or just the host's name?
Just the host. It won't let them know about which breakout room that they're waiting for because at that point they're in the waiting room for the entire virtual trade show booth. The breakout rooms don't have a waiting room feature, so you're stopping them kind of at the door, and then once they enter the door, you'll let them know kind of which breakout room to go to.
So you mentioned not to put a lot in the exhibit hall because you said they're not really spending a lot of time there. But if we do have things like, you know, a brochure that they can reference or something like that, some kind of, where else can we put it besides the exhibit hall?
You'll want to still put it on your organization booth page. So I'm going to quickly kind of just make sure I'm clear about that. I think it's Trade Talk is where everybody's listed. Yes. So I'm going to navigate to the booth and I'm not even showing my screen. Sorry about that. So I'm on your site here now. So I'm going to navigate to the NAFB booth because that's where I've listed myself as an organization. Here we go. So there's two areas to put content. So we do suggest that you put the content here on this front page because this is your booth that people can see at all times throughout the entire year lifespan of the site. So we ask that everything be here. When you click enter virtual trade show booth, you go to your meeting, which is that live trade show. So as you can see, it's letting me know it hasn't started yet because your virtual trade show booths haven't opened. We just suggest not putting anything here because once the meeting has concluded, attendees can't get back to this page. So everything should be on the main booth page, not the page for the meeting itself, if that makes sense.
Is there a way from this page for the broadcaster to click on one of the spokespeople's names and photos saying that's who they are interested in doing the interview with then?
They can click into this, but just one thing to keep in mind, your broadcasters don't get access to this page until a minute before it starts. So there's not a kind of ahead of time for them to be able to do that. They can send that messaging to you on the actual booth page itself under the discussion if they would like to. So this is where you can host some of those conversations here. So this is probably a great place for them to put that information, but they won't be able to click into this button until a minute before your virtual trade show booths open. So that way we're giving you that 20 minutes to get yourselves prepared first.
And is it hard for the host to manage? Will the host be managing both this page plus the waiting room page, or are different people needed for this?
This page doesn't necessarily have to be managed. It depends on how you'd like your specific broadcasters to use it. If you are wanting people to put in information here about who they want to speak with, then you would have to both manage your waiting room and this. I do suggest because when you have the waiting room and you first enter them into the main page, I do suggest the host at that point live, when they're in the actual Zoom room, ask who they would like to have that conversation with, and then be able to put them in the appropriate breakout room, just because it kind of reduces the amount of moving parts that your host would have to deal with at the time.
So could you walk us through, I appreciated the video that you used, but could you walk us through using this page? So we have entered in to, so if you go back one page, then you enter into the booth.
Sure, so one second, actually, because this is the way it'll work for you. So you're gonna go to your organization list page, which is called Trade Talk on the site, and then you'll navigate to your booth. So for me, it's the NAFB booth. So I'll click in to scroll down to that. So National Association of Foreign Broadcasting, I'll click into that. And then the first thing you will see is this organization booth page. This is where all of your content should live, because this is something that your broadcasters and other attendees can see for an entire year. So there's no time limit on when they can see this page. So this is the first thing that you will see. And then there's that manage button here is how you will get into the back end of your booth. So if you want to make any changes to that, I think Tom has put in a couple of things already, but if you want to manage that page yourself, this is how you can change that content. So that way it's updated for what you want to put in there. This is a great place to put any files or brochures. If you want to add anything of that nature, you can do that here. And then, so the files tab is over here, so you can upload multiple files to your booth. You can add polls if you want to kind of increase attendee engagement as well. And then you also have a list of leads and visits here. So this lets you know who's coming to your booth. So this leads option is anybody that clicks the request more information. So that's them asking for you to reach out to them to talk a little bit further. They list here, and you do get their pathable information along with their phone number and email for you to contact them. Visits will let you know who all is coming to the page, so just letting you know when they're stopping by to look at your entire booth setup on that website. And then it just gives you their pathable information, because they haven't authorized for us to share any of their personal contact information yet. And so this is how you will kind of manage that page. So once you're done with that, you will save this. So actually, I'm going to get out of this so I don't mess up anything that he had already. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me get back to that page. I apologize, I just don't want to mess up what Tom has put on there, so I don't want to save anything. And actually, one second. Hold on just a moment. Sorry about the interruption. My browser was having some loading issues, so I wanted to get that reset for you. But in terms of walking through organizing this page, were there any other questions about that? Let me check the chat as well, just to see.
When does this page become live for us to actually enter that information?
This page is live and available now. It depends on if Tom has sent out those invitations. I believe he might have already, but you can edit this at any time because this is a continuously open page. This doesn't have any type of lifespan, so you're able to edit that at any time.
So to answer that question as well, if you have registered for Trade Talk, if you registered your Trade Talk personnel, I've assigned them to the booth. If you have not done that, be sure to look in your mailbox for an email from tradetalk@nafb.com. That will give you the link that you need to be able to register for convention and for Trade Talk. Once that's in, then you'll receive an organizational invitation as to how to populate the booth that has a video attached to that. And then you'll also receive an invitation just to complete your profile on the platform. So the platform is open up to everyone. That happened this morning. And anyone that I've received booth registrations for, I've also given them the credentials to be able to edit their booth.
You know that if that only went to booth personnel, I set up the registration, but I am not one of the two personnel for the day. So maybe they received an email and I wouldn't have.
It would have initially gone out to the primary contacts for every booth. So if you weren't listed as the primary contact on the Trade Talk agreement, that's who it went to, as the primary contact.
Okay.
Couple questions for you on the waiting room. So there could be multiple farm broadcasters. I guess whoever clicks on that enter trade show booth, you could have, up to 5 or 6 or however many, and then you just assign them to the breakout rooms, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then do you know, since I'll probably be monitoring that waiting room and assigning the farm broadcasters to the breakout rooms, can I have another tab open that has that main page with the discussion to monitor that?
You definitely can. It's dependent on how comfortable you are with managing multiple screens. You are totally welcome to do that. This conversation page is, again, there for the entire lifespan of this event. This site is open for an entire year. So this isn't strictly based around what kind of happens in that virtual trade show booth button. Anybody can have any conversation about your booth on this page. So if you're anticipating a lot of traffic in there before people come into your room, you can definitely keep that open to kind of manage that as well.
Well, and I'm wondering on the discussion page, if it makes sense to do real-time updates. So if one of our spokespeople, hops on an interview at the farm broadcaster, you can type in there and say, our CEO just jumped on an interview, will be available in 10 minutes. So then the farm broadcasters, as they enter the pages, they can monitor that. Would that make sense?
Yep, definitely would, because you, again, know your broadcasters a little bit more than I do this group of attendees, but that does sound like a great way to utilize this and kind of keep that open so people know, I guess, what they're walking into before just kind of sitting in that waiting room. Yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have a couple questions too.
Sure.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can.
We have a spokesperson that's only going to be available for a certain time frame. I thought that the farm broadcasters would be able to schedule a time or an appointment to talk with that person. Are they able to do that?
So in terms of the virtual trade show booth, that is open for the time that this agenda item is open, which is the time that Tom and the rest of the organization has set. I believe, let me see if that feature is with this site or not. 1 second. Yes, so that schedule meeting option that can be done with any attendee. Like if there's a certain time that somebody wants to speak with somebody because they can't kind of just be present for the entirety of the booth, they can schedule a private meeting with that person. They just have to navigate to their profile on the site, and then they can schedule a private meeting to kind of book a specific time to speak one-on-one if they can't just kind of stay in the booth.
Okay, so that would probably be best to put that in their description on their profile, saying best way to schedule an interview is to click that button.
Probably, yeah. If they aren't anticipating being there for the entirety of the actual trade talk session, I do suggest kind of putting that either in their profile or somewhere on that discussion page for your booth, just letting them know that the best way to have that one-on-one time is to schedule a private meeting.
Okay.
There's a couple questions in the, oh, sorry, I did not mean to cut off.
Last question. And then is the host able to record all the breakout sessions so we can go back and review them?
So the host can record them, but you'd have to be in the room doing that. So each breakout room needs to kind of be recorded by the person that's in there. The host isn't the only one with recording abilities. Any staff member can do that. But if there isn't one way to record and then still be able to hop out of all of the rooms and kind of keep a recording of everything that's going on. Every breakout room would have to be recorded separately because in Zoom they're their own room, essentially. I'm going to address some of the questions in the chat here. So are there any videos or PDF that will load ahead of time with the company information? Again, that you can do any of that on that management page of your booth that we kind of highlighted a little bit earlier. So you can set that up at any time. Anytime that you receive access to the site, you're able to do that. So you would do that again by navigating to your booth and clicking manage. So then you can edit that profile and upload any PDFs or additional content. Attendees will not see if any of the breakout rooms are full. They cannot see who's in those breakout rooms except for the one that they're in. So they can't see the entire scheme of who's in their breakout room. And there isn't a max amount that you could put into the breakout rooms. So there's kind of not really a limit that Zoom would notify anybody of. We did mention that broadcasters cannot take themselves in and out of breakout rooms. That has to be done by the host. They can always leave the breakout room. They can't get into a new one, if that makes sense. So broadcasters can schedule those interviews using that private meetings feature. And then the host cannot see that scheduled time because that is considered to be a private meeting. So that is found on your personal agenda. So if I was to schedule a private meeting with somebody, those meetings would be listed here because it's a private one-on-one meeting between me and the person that scheduled that time.
Oh, sorry, I have a question. Once it's time for that private meeting, where does that take place?
It takes place in a Zoom room, just as we're in now, but it's just the two of you. So again, once you make it, it'll appear in your My Agenda. You will get a notification reminder with this little bell to let you know that you have that upcoming meeting, but you'll find it here, and then you'll click into the session, just very similar to how you would in that Enter Virtual Trade Show Booth button, but it'll just say Join Live Meeting, and then it'll pop you out into Zoom to have that one-on-one conversation with them. Additionally, private meetings can be more than one person, so if they want to meet with multiple exhibitors at that private time, it can be a handful of people. It doesn't have to just be that person and one other person. So, but it is a private meeting. It's a private meeting feature, so it's not broadcasted for anyone else to see that that happened. That exhibitor would have to let the host know that I had this meeting with this attendee. Yep.
Is there an ability to practice this more than the 20 minutes prior to the start of the event so that we can get comfortable with shifting people in and out and such?
There isn't, just because the way that our virtual trade show booth feature works within it, it generates those Zoom rooms 20 minutes beforehand. So there isn't time to practice that, unless I know Tom had mentioned he was going to set up another session within those live meeting dates for setup time, so you can do it there if Tom does create that agenda session. So whenever the trade talk session starts, you do only have 20 minutes beforehand, but I believe he's going to schedule an additional one for setup and kind of practice for you guys.
Yeah, I think what we'll do, guys, is on Wednesday, we'll do kind of like we've done for the in-person meeting. We'll do a trade talk set of hours, and we'll run those for 3 or 4 hours, probably on Wednesday. I'm thinking from 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon to give everyone a chance to really play with the platform in that type of environment, instead of trying to figure it out early in the morning on Thursday.
As an exhibitor, is it advisable to have the host be someone not also engaged in the interview, since they will be directing traffic in the breakout rooms? In my personal opinion, I do think that is best. They're kind of more that welcome greeter and kind of manager. So if it can be somebody that's not directly involved with the interviews, I do think that would be best, because they kind of have the ability to manage them people instead of having to multitask between the interview and moving people around. Are broadcasters able to record audio and video? Yes, they can. You do have to give them permission to do that, as you are the host and the co-host. So they'll just simply ask, hey, can you allow me to record the video? And then you enable them to record that. Are private meetings only available during trade talk session time? They're available at any time, I think, from Tom's scheduling of those. So it's anytime during these live dates of your event. So, and then you can't have, oh, sure.
If we have a host, let's say, for example, you've got your host out there who's doing the breakout rooms and putting people in different rooms. But yet at the same time, our subject matter experts, let's say we have 2 or 3 who are registered for this event and are taking questions. If they all have their own personal appointments and they're all having to watch their own personal ones, how does the host know? Are we notified like with a red light or something that they're not available to be put in a breakout room since we can't see when they're scheduled private, appointments?
They would have to communicate that with you because you do have the ability to accept and reject private meetings. So it's not that it's just going to be put on your schedule. That person would have to then let you know that I'm not available from these times because I'm going to be taking a personal appointment. Because it's not a feature that's built into virtual trade shows. It's a completely separate feature on Pathable, so they're not connected. So there's not a automatic way to let you know. They would have to just communicate that with you. The question about can we have 2 hosts, Zoom only allows for one person to be the host and everybody else is a co-host. So co-host and host do have the same abilities, with the one difference being that only the host can manage those breakout rooms. You can switch host and co-host throughout the meeting at any time. There's not a limit on that. It's not a final decision. So if you need somebody to be the host in the earlier part of these talks and then someone to be the host later, you're able to transfer those abilities at any time.
Hey, Alicia, I had a quick question. You mentioned on the breakouts how broadcasters could not, they can leave the breakout, but when they leave, do they go back to the organization's main page, or do they leave the organization altogether?
When they click leave breakout room, they're leaving that breakout room and they're still in your main room. If they click leave the meeting altogether, then they're exiting Zoom and they're back on your organization page.
Okay. Okay, great. And I was thinking about in terms of trying to continue the collegiality, I guess, that there is that we have when we're in person. Is it advisable, would you suggest, instead of maybe keeping people in a waiting room, if you just kept them on your main organization's page, are you able to sort of video talk with them then? And even if it's more than one person, or how does that work?
No, because your organization page I just want to make sure we're talking about the same page. By organization page, are you talking about?
I'm sorry, I meant not the breakout rooms.
Oh, okay.
But in Zoom.
Yes, it's kind of whatever preference works best for you. You cannot have that waiting room at all and keep everybody in the main session, and then that's where they wait until they get assigned to a breakout room. That's definitely something that you can use it as well. It's just kind of what best works for you. Some people want that extra layer where it's like they're in a waiting room first before I bring them in and then assign them to the breakout, but you can just have them in your overarching organization booth room and then put them in a breakout room after that.
Terrific. Thanks very much.
Would you, I've got a question as well. Do you think it would make sense for our spokespeople as a best practice when they finish a interview for them to come back to the waiting room? So then when farm broadcasters come in, you'll have, all of your spokespeople available so you know who's available?
That is one way to do it because it kind of gives that initial like, hi, I'm going to be the person that you're talking to and we're about to go to this breakout room together. It does allow for your broadcaster to at least know who they're speaking to. The person that is the host can know if that person's available or not, because if you're leaving your additional staff members in the breakout rooms ready for the interviews, you can see if someone's in the room or not because you have the entire list of who's where within the meeting. So it's kind of a personal preference.
So you could see if one of our spokespeople is done with an interview, you can go in and see if they're alone in the breakout room or if the farm broadcaster is still in the room with them.
Yep, and you actually don't have to enter the room to do that. When you pull up that breakout rooms feature, as you might have seen in the video, it shows you the list of who's where. So if it's just your staff member in there, then you know that they're alone and they can take somebody else.
Okay, so it could make sense for your spokespeople just to stay in their respective breakout rooms. Mm-hmm. And then if a farm broadcaster comes onto your waiting room, then you can go in and check and see on the list if your spokesperson is available.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Definitely.
Okay, and I guess while they're waiting for farm broadcasters, because it could be 15 minutes, it could be an hour, if there's no farm broadcasters that have expressed interest, they can just keep that tab open on their computer and, multitask, do other things.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. And then do you know if the requesting meetings, can both the exhibitors and the farm broadcasters request those specific meetings?
Yep, they can request them with any attendee throughout this entire event at any time. So that's a feature available to everyone. Yep.
Gotcha.
When a broadcaster leaves a room after an interview, does the host get a notification that it has ended? There is a setting on Zoom. I can probably pull up a picture to play a sound when somebody enters or leaves the meeting. So you can enable that. That is an option for you to choose. It doesn't happen by default, but you can kind of get that noise to let you know that somebody has left your Zoom room. Will broadcasters be encouraged to visit the exhibitors booth directly to wait in the Zoom waiting rooms, or encouraged to schedule meetings in advance? Personally, from user behavior in the past, people are going to navigate to your organization booth page, click that enter virtual trade show booth button because they're eager to speak with you, and then I guess be put in that waiting room if you enable that. The private meetings feature isn't overtly obvious all over the page, whereas differently, you have this trade talk tab here in the navigation, so it's kind of a little bit more prominent in terms of wanting to go to that page, but I think that might be a little bit of a better question for Tom in terms of how he's marketing this event. Yep, I know.
Oh, sorry, I have a question. This is Brittany Voss. This is more for Tom, but just want to make sure that I'm clear on this. So I'm the main point of contact for my booth, and I'll also serve as the meeting host, and I registered for other spokespeople. Do I need to then, do I have access to be able to do those things, or do I need to have 5 total registrants, with myself being that 5th one?
If you're going to be the host of the booth that day, Brittany, I would recommend going ahead and registering as well, so so you can have full access.
Perfect, thanks.
And for those scheduled meetings too, if a farm broadcaster sends that to one of our staffers, that is really, they're only going to be, calling in the day of likely. Should they be logging in and monitoring if they get any messages for a scheduled meeting? Or for us that are facilitating, are we able to go in and see if they've gotten any requests?
So because it's a private meeting, only the person that's account that is has access to know if they're scheduling private meetings or not. You do get an email reminder. So if you're not on the site at the time, you do get reminders in your email that people have requested meetings with you. But just to kind of reiterate, since it's a private meeting feature that's not connected to the virtual trade show booth, it's only between the people that are going to be in that meeting. So if you do want additional people to know about the session, you would have to then add them when you're scheduling that meeting. So there isn't any way for you to kind of know what's on somebody else's schedule without them telling you.
Okay, so we could notify our spokespeople that they may receive requests for meetings and just for them to monitor them specifically. Thank you. Okay.
So this may be a silly question, but what about monitoring? So let's say, for example, you do, 20 interviews, 30 interviews like we normally do at the booth, in a day. Is there anything in this program that automatically tells us, like a reminder or a list that's created to let us know who we've done interviews with? Or is this something that we're still kind of responsible for, that as we're moving people in and out, we're just writing down names and outlets? Or is there something that's automatically generated?
In terms of knowing who you've done those interviews with, in terms of a very strict list of that, that is something that you would need to keep track of, but it's kind of a list that we generate. You might have to kind of filter through it. I'll share what that looks like, because we do track everybody that comes to your page, and they have to come to your page in order to get to your virtual trade show booth. So it kind of helps a little bit with compiling that list. We just don't know if you actually conducted the interview with that person or if they just came to stop by. So if it's a very strict list that you're looking for, you would have to keep track of that. But here we'll let you know everybody that's come to your booth. So everybody that did go into your virtual trade show booth room would have to be on this list, because it's the only way they can get to your Zoom room. So you kind of get this list to begin with and then filter through it accordingly. And this is downloadable too. So it downloads to an Excel spreadsheet as well. I do know we have another demonstration with broadcasters shortly after, so I don't know if Tom is ready to conclude this session or if he has anything else he wants to add.
Any other questions that anyone has? We are recording this presentation. We'll make it available as soon as it gets published to our YouTube channel, but Alicia's got a little bit of time here. Any other remaining questions in the few minutes we have remaining?
Good. This looks great, Tom. Thank you all so much for all you've done to make this transition a little smoother. And we look forward to a great show.
Thanks so much, Pam.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you all for joining. I do want to apologize for the first set of quality issues with the video. I'm so sorry about that, but the PowerPoint is available for you to at least see those directly on your own page if you want to refer to those at any time. So
yeah, none of us have ever had tech issues.
It's the way of the world now, huh? But thank you guys so much for your patience and understanding.
Thank you.
No worries,
Thanks,
you did
everyone.
great. Thank you.